Welcome to my green card Bloomburrow limited set review. Start Baker's Bane duo. It is a one generic in the green creature squirrel raccoon. When Baker's Bane duo enters, create a food token. Whenever you expend 4, Baker's Bane duo gets +1/+1 inside a turn. So I mean, this is basically a nice filler creature that enables your forage synergy and also your life gain synergy card. And yep, you'll just play it in your decks. I mean, again, I'm not 100% sure about how good the expend is, but I'll put it as a C plus. Bark Knuckle Boxer, one generic in the green creature, Raccoon Berserker. Whenever you expend 4, Bark Knuckle Boxer gains indestructible until end of turn. So it's a 3/2 for 2, which is already above the curve. I mean, and as I guess the whole raccoon thing is you're you know playing expensive things, so basically this is going to be functionally unblockable for some portions of the game, when as you're expending your mana or whatever. It's probably going to get in 2 or 3 attacks before potentially they play well, I mean, depends on what they play. I guess they could play a 4/4, and then this is attacking anymore unless you have a pump spell or removal. But I put it down as a C plus. A Brambleguard veteran, one generic, 2 green creature raccoon warrior. Whenever you expend 4, raccoons you control get +1/+1 gain vigilance on turn. So this is already again over the stat line. The downside is it is double green. It's kind of hard to cast, but it's a good team pump, and then the vigilance means this big creature or your other big raccoon can still block. I put it as a C plus. Squishy bodyguard, one generic in the green creature. Squirrel Warrior Offspring 2. Whenever this creature enters, you may forward. If you do, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So I mean, the fail case of this card is bad. 2 mana, 2/1 is not good, but the fact that like late game, this is a 4 mana 4/3 and a 3/3, assuming you can forage twice, or it's a 2 mana 4/3. I guess if don't want to, if you play it later in the game, it's 2 mana 4/3. Can't play the offspring. I mean, you'll probably still play the offspring anyways, even if you can't forage twice, assuming you can spend the 4 mana. And then yeah, the 4 mana also, I guess that was a good point about with expend, all the offspring cards work towards doing that, because all the offsprings are usually around 4. There's some offsprings, well, I mean, it brings the total to 4 or more. There's some offsprings where it's actually a 1-drop and then paying offspring 2, but then always just play another spell to get spend 4. So I put it as a B minus. What do you want here? All right, cash grab. I mean, barring the joke about the name, but in set design in general. But so one generic green instant, mill 4 cards. You may put a permanent card from among the cards milled this way into your hand. If you control a squirrel or return a squirrel card to your hand this way, create a food token. I mean, I think the closest comparison I can make is Seed of Hope, which I mean was different card. This costs 1 mana. It only lets you look at 2. You gain the life right away. This one is clearly very very good in like green black. Like it's gonna be pretty important in like green black because you're gonna want to mill your graveyard and then get a food because like green black wants they both want the cards in the graveyard. I mean, I guess I mean green wants the cards in the graveyard too. Yeah, I put it down as a C plus. So it's like yeah, it's gonna be pretty important in the like the green black deck just because of the milling and also the potential to make a food token. You should probably be able to do that in green black because you'll either control a squirrel or probably like return a squirrel to your hand with it. Alright, Clifftop Lookout, 2 generic and a green, creature frog scout reach. When Clifftop Lookout enters, reveal a card from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tap and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order 1-2. Um so this isn't quite, Elvish Rejuvenator, but it's always a little different because that could actually whiff, but I guess Elvish Rejuvenator also gave you the option of like if you hit 2 lands of it in the top 5, you could, choose one. This you always have to play the land that you hit off of it. Um I put it down as a C plus just because it ramps you. It's also again green. It's a frog. There's like it has like a good ETB to like reuse if you're playing like the green blue frog deck. Because you know. Alright, Curious Forager, 2 generic and a green. Creature Squirrel Druid. When Curious Forager enters, you may forage. When you do, return target permanent from your graveyard to your I mean, this is better than the Scavenger from Lost Caverns of Ixalan because I think it's like going to be easier to enable this, whereas like with the Scavenger, it was a little different because you didn't always have like the send get the card back. This one, I mean, it's a little different because this is also like getting rid of a resource when you fridge, but you're playing like a pretty good green black deck. You're gonna want to have this card, so I put it as a C plus. And Druid as a spade, 2 generic and a green. Creature Rabbit Druid. As long as you control a token, Druid as a spade has +2/+0 and has trample. I mean, it's not too hard to get like the tokens. This also counts food, by the way. So if you have like food, this will still be like a 4/3. So I mean, it also works with like rabbits. So like it was a rabbit, but I mean, if you don't have any way to make a token in your deck, you should avoid it because it's like 2/3. But I think like it should be like easy enough to make it a to make it a 4/3 or whatever, a 4/3 trample in like types of decks or whatever. Yeah, it is mostly like a green white deck, green white card, but like you can probably get. And I mean, the funny thing is also I guess because of gifting, there is like the potential you could end up with like a fish token from like gifting or something. But I don't know. I guess I would just put it down as like a C, just because like if you're not making a token at all, it's much worse than this. Definitely not playable. Okay. Fecund Green Shell, 3 generic and 2 green. Creature Elemental Turtle Reach. As long as you control 10 or more lands, creatures you control get +2/+2. Whenever Fecund Green Shell or another creature you control with toughness greater than its power enters, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield tab. Otherwise, put it in your hand. 4/6. So already it's a 5 mana 4/6 reach, which is good stat line. And it already replaces itself. Either it gives you a land in play, or you can you can, or you put the card in your hand. It also like rewards you for building your deck a specific way. Like if you build your deck around the higher toughness and power, and there are like a fair number of creatures that do that. So it's like um just the fact that it replaces itself, and then it can really, like, if you are drawing a card or ramping off of like a bunch of other of your creatures, I put as A minus. And then like it also rewards you that if you have been, ramping either with like other spells or just pump your team. It's a pretty large pump. Okay, so for the common good, X generic twice, and then or XX and then green sorcery. Create X tokens that are copies of target token you control. And then tokens you control gain indestructible. So your next turn you gain 1 life for each token you control. So I think this card is like, I guess, dependent on what you're copying, because if you're just copying a 1/1 rabbit token, that doesn't seem good. If you are using this to like copy a token from like the blue season or something that makes like a token copy of like a creature you control, then it's really good. But I'm just gonna put this as a D because I think this was constructed. But I'm sure there'll probably be like some really dream scenario that you combo it with something that makes like a token clone of like your 4/4 and then copy it with common good. But okay, so Galewind Moose, 4 generic and 2 green. Creature Elemental Elk. Flash, Vigilance, Reach, and Trample 6/6. Um, I mean, the problem with like these 6-drop flash creatures is they tend to be like really telegraphed. Like when your opponent just like passes, it's like very easy to see it. But I mean, it's largely like, if like early on, like it is largely just going to like kill something when like your opponent attacks into it because it's so large. And then the vigilance lets it do the attacking. They'll have the ability to block, and they can't really race it because of like the reach. And it's like we were talking about like the red one of this, and the red one like has haste instead of vigilance, and it doesn't flash or whatever. But one is like, I don't know, I put it as a B minus, but again, I do think like as the thing goes on or whatever, like people will start playing around this card more, and then like it's like less good. But the fact that it's just like so big or whatever is definitely, it has like, and people just won't play around it early on, so it'll actually eating something when they attack. So Hazard Root Herbalist, 2 generic and a green. Creature Rabbit Druid. Whenever you attack, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. That creature is a token that also gains Death Touch until end of turn. So this is one of those cards that's like, oh, it's much better when you are on the play than the draw, because it only does something when you attack. Um, like, it is cool if you are actually in the white green rabbit deck and you have like a lot of tokens, because it does mean like your 1/1 attacks as like a 2/1. It could attack as a 2/1 death touch or something, which is cool. Like, it's gonna be much harder for them to like ignore that. I mean, I guess they could just block with their own 1/1 theoretically, but I'm just gonna put it down as a C just because I think this card's gonna be pretty bad when you're getting beat. Because it will literally do nothing when you're getting beat down. I guess it's a 1/4 blocker, but so Heaped Harvest. 2 generic and a green artifact food. When Heaped Harvest enters and when you sacrifice it, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, and then shuffle. 2 generic and tap, sacrifice Heaped Harvest, you gain 3 life. I as a C minus. I think it's like, yeah, it is cool that it is like a food. You can sack it to your forage stuff and still get the land off of it. I don't know. It's like it still feels like. I mean, I think like the set is gonna be pretty aggro personally, so it's like I don't know if you have the time to spend the 3 mana to get the land and then whatever else you want, like forage and then get another land. But I mean, it's got some synergies. Like I was saying, it's like good in the forage deck if you just like fodder, and that's where you're actually going to be excited about it. Is like playing green black. Want to just need more food for foraging. A high stride, 1 green instant. Target creature gets +1/+3 and gains reach until end turn. Untap it. So they've had this card before, you know, well, I guess that was different, really, sudden spin, because it actually puts a reach counter. But I mean, well, they had it in wild. I mean, this was also in wild little drain type of card or whatever. I mean, it's not great because it doesn't really increase the power of the creature that much. But like early on, this is kind of like it's going to like kill a lot of creatures, like these 1 mana combat tricks. And it does give like a sizable amount of toughness. Like if they were trying to use like damage based removal on your god and then like do this response, so kind of smart about it. But I'll put it as a C. I think the stats on 17 land will definitely be a lot higher for that card. Like a High Spine Wolverine, 3 generic, 2 green, creature elemental Wolverine. When High Spine Wolverine enters, choose 1. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Or High Spine Wolverine fights target creature token, and only says token, or destroy target artifact or enchantment. I mean, the floor on this, it's like a 5/4 that throws a 1/1 stat on itself or someone else or somewhere else. That's like relevant. You know, I mean, it can delete your opponent's like 1/1 rabbit, like by fighting it. I mean, and you know, there's enough like artifacts and enchantments where it's going to get like value from the like there's gonna be like value from this card, like either way you look at it. So I mean, the floor is obviously not great, like 5 mana 6/5. I mean, to be frank, but I mean, I don't know, I'm gonna put it at a C plus, but I think it could actually play out really differently depending on the matchups you run into. Just straight up like a doing the 2 or 3 more often. This one, so Honored Dray Leader, 2 generic and a green, creature Squirrel Warrior, Trample. When Honored Dray Leader enters, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each other squirrel and or food you control. Whenever another squirrel food you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on Honored Dray Leader. Okay, I mean, this is a pretty good payoff for being in squirrels or food. And it does have the benefit that you can play it early and watch it scale up, and you can play it late and it's just going to be like a 5/5 or a 6/6. If you play it late, I'll put it down to C plus, because there's definitely going to be some fail case you play it and it's just 3 mana on 1 and you're sad. But we're just gonna rate it as like, oh, it's like a 3 or 4/4 average, I guess. Hunter's Talent, 1 generic in the green, enchantment class. When Hunter's Talent enters, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. 1 generic in a green, level 2. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature gets +1/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. And then 3 generic in a green, level 3. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. So, this does like a lot of little things. Like the first part is just like, oh, it's Rabid Bite. That's fine. And then 2, it's like it pumps your attacking guys and gives, or your one of your attackers gets pumped and trampled. Pumps and tramples, that's good, you know, like if you don't want, because they're like, because like the trample is going to be relevant with all the 1/1 tokens and whatnot. And then if you're playing green, you're probably going to have like large creatures, so the half of Garrick's Uprising draw card part you're L2. Yeah, only, it's not quite Garrick's Uprising. Very close. I put it as a B just because it has, I think I like all of the parts of this quite a bit. I could also see like B. Right. Innkeeper's Talent, 1 generic and a green enchantment class. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature control, and then green, level 2 permanents you control with counters on them have ward 1, and then level 3. If you would put 1 or, so 3 generic and a green is level 3. If you put 1 or more counters on the permanent player, put twice that many of each of those kinds of counters on that permanent player instead. So I think I'm just gonna rate this around like level 1, and I mean it's pretty ridiculous, right? Because it's like um level 1 is already like, yeah, it's like Luminarch Aspirant. It's on a, but it's on a enchantment instead of like a 1/1. And it does also, if you level 2, it makes the permanents that you put the counters on. I mean, it can be other counters. Like they get slightly harder to kill. And then level 3 basically Citadel Siege, which so let's see. I mean, it's going to be a little bit. You're going to put in a little bit more time to do it, and it doesn't have like the tap or whatever. But like Citadel Siege was like put 2+1/+1 counter the target creature, but this also buffs all of like your counters or whatever you play. So I'm gonna put it as like a. Because if you have like other ways to put counters on your guys, it also works. It's basically just like branching evolution. This part. Keen-eyed Curator, 2 green, creature, Raccoon Scout. As long as there are 4 more card types among cards exiled with Keen-eyed Curator, it gets +4/+4 in this trample. Then 1 exile target or 1 generic. It's a 3/3, so it's a 2 mana 3/3 that's pretty strong. Just in itself, it is double green, makes it a little hard to cast. I mean, it's pretty good because it hates on like the threshold forage strategy. Like if you play against a black, green, or blue deck or whatever, just like exiling stuff from the graveyard is going to be good. And then also you can exile stuff from your own graveyard to potentially make this big. I mean, so you're gonna probably, if you're playing this, you're gonna want to put some of those harder to get card types in your deck, like the, you know, the artifacts, lands. I mean, it's not really super hard to get like Exile Delirium, but like it does make you think about like, oh, maybe if I put like an enchantment or artifact or whatever in the deck to exile that, because you could exile from your own graveyard if you just want to make the curator better, even like 95% of the time exiling stuff from card. But yeah, But yeah, I mean it's a 2 mana 3/3, or potential late game is gonna be 2 mana 7/7 trample. So yeah, put it down as a minus, but we'll see. I think it depends on how easily you can get it to the delirium, the exile delirium. I mean, Longstalk Brawl, 1 green sorcery, gift a tapped fish, choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. Put a +1/+1 counter on the creature you control if the gift was prominent, and then those creatures fight each other. I mean, this is a way, I guess you can combo it with the thing I was talking about, like the act of treason guy, and then fight the creature you stole with something else or whatever, like your opponent's creature, so they both die. Thing. Prey upon. This is better than prey upon because it has like the option to give a counter, because I think that's usually the main issue of like prey upon, is that since you're not actually making your creature bigger, um it's going to be hard to play, because I think I had it as a C. I think I'm gonna put it as a C, because again I don't know, like it depends on like how often you really want to give them the fish, but I do like the flexibility of adding the counter. I do think that fight is a lot worse than just usually what like the removal that green, like nowadays, like green often gets like removals. It's just like deal damage to the opponent's creature as opposed to like fighting, because fighting has like more potential risk that it can go wrong. Like they you know like if they pump their creature in response to the fight spell, it's pretty bad. Whereas like if it's just like say Rabid Bite and then you play it and then they pump their creature, then at least like, I mean, their creature lives but yours doesn't die. Just something to be aware of, that this is a fight and not like hard hitting question or whatever. So Lumra, Bellow of the Woods, 4 generic and 2 green, legendary creature, elemental bear, vigilance, and Lumra, Bellow of the Woods, power and toughness are each equal to the number of land control. When Lumra enters mill 4 cards, then return all land cards from your battlefield tapped. So like, assuming you're not ramping this out, it's like, I don't know, it's going to be like a 6 mana 6/6, and then you mill, and then if you have like land cards in your graveyard, it'll be bigger. I mean, it's the vigilance and reach means they can't race it because it's going to be able to block. I mean, they can still chump it because it doesn't have trample, but I mean, it's not quite, say Cultivator Colossus or whatever, which is like a different card, but right, that was a different card, but also Cultivator Colossus wasn't actually really that good in that particular limited format either. I mean, but I had it rated as a C plus, because again, I think this is like might be have that issue where it's like chumpable and stuff. And I don't know, I guess the milling does help. I'll put it down. I'll just put it down as a B minus, because they rated the other thing 6 mana is like there too. But we'll see. We're gonna Misbreath Elder, 1 green creature, frog warrior. At the beginning of your upkeep, return another creature you control to its owner's. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on Misbreath Elder. Otherwise, you may return Misbreath Elder to its owner's hand. I think this is actually like a trap card. in limited, I guess, unless you have like some scenario where this is like your only creature that you're gonna be playing for a while, and I guess, and even if you don't, it's just a 2/2. It's like what you really want to be doing with this is you want to be playing like your ETB creature, like the Elvish Visionary, 2 mana 1/1 that draws a card, and you bounce it back to your hand repeatedly, and then you keep it in play, and then this is growing and like getting to for ETB on your guy. But there's not like a ton of like cheap creatures with like beneficial ETBs, which is why I think this card's like more people are going to play this card than they should in drafts and stuff. But I mean, there's definitely probably like some dream scenario where you play it, and like I said, you have really good stuff to. I mean, the worst case scenario is, I guess, if like you end up drawing like a hand where this card would actually stop you from like developing other things. You can just bounce it back to your hand. Like, like if you like if say you just have like a normal 2-drop and 3-drop and 4-drop you want to curve out with, you can just return this to your hand and play your play the Mistbreath Elder like later when you draw like your stuff. But I'll just put it on as a D. Overprotect. So 1 generic green instant. Target creature control gets +2/+3 and gains trample, hexproof, and indestructible until end of turn. They just reprinted Gaia's gift, except it doesn't give a counter anymore. It doesn't give a +1/+1 counter anymore, but it gives +3/+3. So this, I mean, I think the effect on this is pretty good. Because it will just like, I mean, +3/+3 and trample is already like a card people play a lot in like limited, like they play Run Amok or like the green one, whatever, like the green one from like LCI, which is not Run Amok, but you know, I remember Gaia's gift was like a top combat trick or top card in like Brothers War actually. So I don't know. I'm willing to like play this as like a B minus, but it's really more like a low. Just I think like this will definitely get people just because again it gives like a lot of stats, and again the green combat trick from LCI actually like a very was like an overperformer for a while. The 2 mana +3/+3 and triple. This one has hexproof and indestructible on it. Okay, Paw Patch formation, 1 generic and a green, instant. Choose one, destroy target, which are flying. Destroy target enchantment, draw a card, create a food token. So this is like the most playable plummet that we've seen in a while. I mean, this is like actually like sort of like the perfect card to play in best of one. It's like a really good design for like best of one because it's like, oh, I can just cycle it and make a food token like bad, and then like there's gonna be some games where, oh, I blow up Vanishing Light, or I blow up like their 3/3 flyer, and then it's cool. Um, like, so this is like a card that like you'd be totally fine with playing it best of one or whatever, because like it cycle it, or you can use the third mode when it's like bad. I'll put it as a C plus, just because of the flexibility. Paw Patch Recruit, green, creature, rabbit warrior, offspring 2, trample. Whenever a creature you control becomes a target of a spell or ability to opponent control, put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature control other than that creature. So it's like, um, how do they put this down? I put it down as a B. I mean, so it's like this is like the type of card that is going to attract all the removal that your opponent has or whatever, because like they're you know, they're not going to want to like just target your other things because then you're getting like theoretically you're getting like a free counter on something else. Like I mean, it's a little hard. Like it's a little hard to read because it's like yeah, it's like okay, you have two creatures or something like that, and they target your other creature. Like they target like your 4/4 or something like that, and then this becomes like a 3/2 with the counter on this. They targeted your 4/4 or something, and it's just it is going to force like your opponent to play a little differently with the removal, and like the offspring too is also just gonna make that like a little like it's not even that big like see look the difference between a 2/1 with this ability. I think it could actually be a bit of like a game, or I guess it makes the game play out a little differently. Okay, so Peerless Recycling, 1 in a green, instant gift a card. Return target permanent from your graveyard to your hand. If the gift was promised, return 2 target permanents from graveyard to hand. I mean, like they've had this type of card, like Revive the Shire or whatever, which was not like super good. I mean, I think that was also like a sorcery, right? Yeah, that was a sorcery. This is an instant. It also gives you like the option of giving your opponent a random card. They get like a second permanent. And I mean, there's gonna be a lot of ways to like fill your graveyard. I think it's gonna be easier to fill your graveyard in this set than in It's gonna be easier to fill your graveyard in your set in this set compared to like Lord of the Rings. So I'm gonna start it off as like a C plus, but I mean, definitely play out worse. I don't know. Polywallop, 3 generic and a green instant. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each frog you control. Target creature you control deals damage equal to twice its power. The target creature you don't control. Um, they've kind of had this before. I think there was like a card in like Aftermath or something like that that was like this. It was like a 3 mana sorcery that dealt double damage to a creature you don't, or double power, or a creature you control dealt damage equal to twice its power. It costs 3 or whatever. I mean, I do like that this works perfectly with like expend. It's an instant speed spell for expend 4 or whatever. Like assuming you don't have any frogs, you have frogs that have to cast another spell to expend 4 at instant speed. But put it down as a C plus. Even though yes, it does look really expensive on the front, but I think like if you're actually making it like paying 3 for this, I think that's very deck wise. Alright, Rush Shield Rampager, 3 generic and a green, creature Raccoon Warrior, Offspring 2. This creature can be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. I mean, they had this card before in March of the Machines. It was like a whatever the Kavu something pouncing Kavu. It wasn't exactly the same. No, it's not pouncing Kavu. Oh my god, I'm looking for every Kavu. Every Kavu sorted by release date. Oh, chomping Kavu, yeah. It's not quite the same thing. This one had backup, but like similar. It's like a 4/4 that has like pseudo evasion. You know, they can't block with cheap things. I guess like the offspring, like there may be some scenarios where all your opponent's creatures are like 2 power or less, and then the 1/1 getting in there too. I'm just gonna put it as a C. fine. It's again, it's got like the green evasion thing going on. Whatever. Rep shooter, one green, sorry, one generic, two green, creature, raccoon, archer, gift a card, reach. When scrap shooter enters, if the gift was promised, destroy target artifact or enchantment of opponent control. I mean, you just read this as like a 3-mana 4/4 reach that has like just pure upside. It's like, yeah, kill their artifact or enchantment in exchange for a random card. I mean, pretty good. Pretty good. I put it a B plus. Season of Gathering, 4 generic and 2 green. Sorcery, choose up to 5 paw worth of modes. You may choose the same mode more than once. Paw, put a +1/+1 counter on the creature you control. It gains vigilance and trample until end of turn. 2 paw, choose artifact or enchantment. Destroy all permanents of the chosen type. And then 3 paw, draw a card equal to the greatest power among creatures to control. So it's like pseudo overrun that permanently buffs the creature, or you can choose to wipe away all the artifacts or enchantments, or both if you want to use up 4 paw. And you can also use it as a reload, like, you know, pump some creatures, or pump a couple creatures and draw like some more cards. I mean, I put it as a B because there's gonna be probably some situations where you're like happy like with what the mode that you chose, like, you know, destroy like 2 banishing lights with this. Pretty exciting. Obviously you would want to not have any enchantments if you're using that mode, but I think there's gonna be like enough play here that it's gonna be, I mean, the worst case scenario, yeah, play it as like maybe the game, but just putting 5 counters on things. Right, I think you can, I guess maybe do you have to target 5 different things? Maybe, but I mean, alright. Sticky Tongue Sentinel, 2 generic and a green, creature frog warrior reach. When Sticky Tongue Sentinel enters, return up to 1 other target permanent control to its owner's hand. 3 to see. It's just, you know, it's your 3/3 that enables your frog synergy. The frog tribal synergy, which is playing or making, the frog tribal synergy is actually like making stuff leave, making creatures you control leave play without dying. That's the synergy. Stalking the Pantry, green enchantment. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counter on a creature you control, put a supply counter on Stalking the Pantry. 2 generic, remove a supply counter from Stalking the Pantry, draw a card. This card seems very, very slow. I'm gonna put it as a D plus. I don't know, like, this seems very, very slow, but, and it could definitely like, nothing. Alright, Sunshower Druid, green creature frog druid. When Sunshower Druid enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you can 0/2. So this is like a really good creature, ETB creature to like return to your hand because it only costs 1. And also the life gain matters, like if you are playing any white or green life gain things, it's gonna matter there. So I think it's like a glue card or whatever, like for a couple different archetypes. So I'll put it down as a C plus, just because I think it's going to be good in a couple different archetypes. And I mean, it might be what, like, again, I think it's like one of those cards where it doesn't look very like impressive by itself, but when you're like synergizing it with something else, it's going to be a lot better. A Tender, Wild Guy, 1 and a green. 1 generic green creature, Possum Druid, Offspring, to tap, add 1 mana of any color, and then tap, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So, I mean, This is a 2/2 mana dork, attempt for any color, and then when you don't have anything to do with the mana dorking, like you need to make it a little bit bigger, you can just like tap this end of turn to put a counter on it. It also works with that stalking the pantry card that I just talked about, but and then the offspring is like good if again it's like another body to grow as time goes on. I mean, I think it's gonna be good. Put it down as a B. Like it's just a mana dork that you can do something with it later, and then also the offspring like goes into like the whole wide the token. Another thing. Pump with the team pumps. Alright, Thornwall Forager, 1 generic and a green. Creature Squirrel Ranger. Tap, add green. Tap, forage, add 2 mana to any combination of colors. And then 3 generic green. Search your library for a squirrel card, reveal it, put in your hand, shuffle. So this is a different mana dork. It doesn't generate any color unless you forge, but it can technically generate 2 mana if you're doing that. And I guess if you're really deep, you have like a bunch of good squirrels. This is like a card that you can just like tap and then tutor up your squirrels and kind of forces like your opponent might actually want to like remove this from play because they see it and they're like, oh man, I don't want my opponent to like tutor up squirrels and stuff. And like, what would it be? I think again it's going to be based on how many squirrels you're playing in your deck, and because if you're not actually tutoring up anything with this, then it goes down. It goes down, but it's just the threat of tutoring a squirrel with this. Like the 3 tree root weaver, 1 generic and a green creature mold druid. Tap, add 1 mana of any color to 1. So this has like the mana dork. It has the downside that it doesn't have any of the animal creature type that you care about, or whatever, which is the downside. Is it's a mole. Like I mean, we already saw there was like also like a Wolverine, like a turtle that doesn't count towards like the creature types you care about. But I put it as a C. I mean, I think it'll be like depends on how much you need like the ramp or like the fixing or whatever. But it's like one of those like sometimes they have like mana dorks that do something else also at common for like 2 mana. But I mean, this is fine. It's not like super exciting. Okay, 3 tree scribe, 1 generic and a green creature frog druid. Whenever 3 tree scribe or another creature control leaves the battlefield without dying, put +1/+1 counter target creature. So it's got better body than like a 2/2 or whatever. I mean it's just gonna be a 2 mana 2/3 if you're not actually doing the bounce exile thing. This also either crash cost 17. You have 2 for 1 of your privilege. Oh, nice. Yeah, good to hear. But like, so like I put this as a C plus because I think it's gonna be pretty good in the deck where you're doing stuff with it. But we're actually doing the thing like the making creatures you control leave. This also does force your opponent to play differently, like if they have bounce spells. That is actually something I think I noted when I was talking about like the bounce spells earlier. Why I had them rated lower is because if you do run into the opponent that has like 3 tree scribe or what or the other like cards that care about creatures leaving the battlefield without dying, then like bounce spells are actually bad. It also means like exiling spells are like less of like potentially less of an upside because it triggers this as well, though like exiling is also good because it stops like all the stuff that like return a permanent card to your The frog also triggers a turtle. So yeah, I put it as a C plus. I mean, you're gonna need to build around it though. Tree guard duo, 3 and a green. 3 generic and a green. Creature frog rabbit. When tree guard duo enters, until end of turn, target creature you control gains vigilance and +X, where X is the number of creatures you control. So this really, like, I like the abilities on like these duo cards because like they basically encapsulate the two mechanics that they want to do in like those color pairs or whatever. Like this one is like an ETB creature that, so ETB creature being like green blue, but this is also like benefits you for go wide, so green white. They put it as like a C. I mean, it's just, this is definitely going to like have some, like, it's like the worst case scenario is like this is your only creature and it's a 4 mana 3/4 that sucks. Like, I mean, I guess the great play pattern is you go like 2-drop, 3-drop, tree guard duo, attack, make your 3/3 into like a 6/6 vigilance for turn. And yeah, people were saying that too, that 4 mana stuff is relevant because of expend 4, so I should actually rate those cards higher, but it was also kind of low on the expend 4, but I don't know. Maybe I was like, maybe I'm just underestimating like how good expend 4 is. It's actually very good. 4 mana creatures. Yeah, we're talking about like the expend 4. You know? I mean, that's why like it's gonna be really good to look at the first 17 lands thing, like 7 weeks, and you look at it and it's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be really because my understanding is like 17 lands, like usually like the first week, like combat tricks are like really high. Oh yeah, because of, yeah, the Helga. But like combat tricks get really high because of the people don't play around them. But okay, Treetop Sentries, 3 generic and a green, creature, squirrel, archer, reach. When Treetop Sentries enters, you may forage if you do draw a card. The 2/4. So it's like Giant Spider, but then they power creeped it because it can draw a card. And I put it down as a C plus. It's like Saryl's Pac-Man at home, and yeah, I guess yes, it does also. It's part of the 4 mana synergy, triggers your expend 4. I guess they didn't want to make it really obvious and print a lot of sorceries that just say draw a card and like 4 mana sorcery, draw a card and do something. It'd be like too obvious. Like, oh, they were really trying to push expend 4, but oh, also offspring cards are mostly going to trigger the expend 4, unless it's like one of those 1 mana offspring that, so another 1 mana creatures that has offspring too, because most of the offspring are going to cost at least like 4 mana to do it, so those also work with expend 4. Maybe I'm just like totally missing like that expend 4 synergy. Okay, so Valley Might Caller green, creature frog warrior. Trample. Whenever another frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel enters, put a +1/+1 counter on Valley Might Caller. Um, like, this is actually kind of insane if you are in like the white green rabbit deck, because you're going to be making like a lot of those white green rabbit cards. They either have offspring or they just make like 2 or 3 tokens. Sorry, they make like 2 or 3 creatures just inherently, and it's going to be like insane in here in that deck. It's going to be pretty bad, obviously, if you draw this late. Oh, it doesn't, but I'll put it down as a B. just because I think like the potential upside, like this is like you play this early and make like a bunch of tokens, and then like your opponent can't really deal with it. But obviously, it has like the downside that like these drops you draw them have any of these cards in your hand, and it's just a 1 mana 1/1, and you're dead. Okay, wear down uh one generic in the green sorcery, gift a card, destroy target artifact or enchantment. If the gift was promised, instead destroy 2 artifacts or enchantments. I'm just gonna say this is like sideboard fodder because it doesn't have any alternate modes. I mean, I don't think this is a format where you're going to be like super excited to like main deck artifact or enchantment hate that has like no other mode on it. Like, so this is basically just like you play this in best of three, is like you get it from the sideboard. You don't like main deck it. Alright, that is the end of the green portion of the Bloomburrow limited set review. Thanks for hanging out and watching. And if you want to watch more Magic limited content, please check out my stream at twitch.tv/MercurioBlue. But next part of the review will be to look at the multicolored cards. You'll check it out.